Hi everyone, I'm Bertha from a small Italian village. Please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. My name means bright joy, and indeed, my birth was a surprise and a great happiness for my mom. I was a long-awaited child and was born 15 years after my brother Armando, although the doctors said that it was impossible. Almost right after my birth, my father fell in love with another woman and left the family. Mom worked 3 jobs to provide food and electricity to our little village house. Armando matured early and took care of me like a father. He always told me that I was the most extraordinary girl, and I can become whoever I want. I just have to believe in my dreams. And I can even become Prime Minister, I asked, mesmerized by his words. Even Prime Minister if you really want it, my brother answered confidently. Armando had a great physique and was extremely good-looking. When we were walking down the street, all the girls, and sometimes even mature women, threw interested glances in his direction. Once when my brother picked me up from kindergarten and was taking me home, one of his village admirers blocked our way, fell on her knees, and emotionally, like only Italians can do, started to beg, "Armando, marry me. I'll be the best wife for you." I got so mad at her and frightened that she would take Armando away from us, and I shouted, "My brother will live with me and my mom forever. You have no place in our family." But how wrong I was. One day I saw Armando packing his things. "Are you leaving?" I asked in alarm. "Bertha, sweetheart, Mom can't handle everything on her own. It's very hard for her. There isn't a good job for me in the village. So I have to move to the city to earn money and help Mom raise you." My heart was torn to pieces. I had no idea how to deal with this grief. "You're a traitor and a liar! You promised you'd never leave me!" I sobbed at the top of my voice. My brother did not have time to answer. I had already run away and locked myself in my room. And I did not speak to Armando the whole evening before his departure. The next day from my window, I saw my brother getting into the back seat of the car that came to pick him up and close the door. Something inside me broke. I flew out of the house like a bullet, but still didn't make it to say goodbye to my brother. The car had already disappeared. That day my mother was already at work, and I was left alone with my grief. My hands just reached for the sketchbook and pencils, and, as if by magic, I began to draw. It fascinated me so much that I seemed to have fallen out of reality. I forgot about everything, even about parting with a close person without whom, as I thought, I couldn't live and breathe. So the summer passed, and I started going to elementary school. Mom and I had a pretty ordered life. I continued to draw, and my sketches turned into pages of living stories, into which I escaped from real life, finding joy and meaning in them. Elementary and middle school just flew by. Armando didn't come to visit us at all, and shortly after his departure for the city, he met a girl and married her. And he had 5 children, one after another. So he had no time for Mom and me. He was supporting his big family, taking care of his wife and kids. Every day was just like the day before, and I didn't expect any changes in my life, when once my mom shocked me with unexpected news. "Bertha, my joy, since you were born, I've been saving money to give you a better life and education. You'll go to the most prestigious private high school in the entire area. Don't argue, I've made my decision. We can do it. Are you happy?" Happy? No, I was stunned. And I wasn't expecting my such a calm and shock-free life to suddenly change overnight. Out loud, I said, "Thank you, my dear Mommy, that you're trying so hard for me. I need to think everything through." I spent the last days of the holidays within the 4 walls of my room and drew a lot. It was my way of running away from fear, doubt, and thoughts about what kind of life twists await me very soon. And then I saw an unfamiliar guy ride up to our house on a horse. He dismounted and obnoxiously started to pick and eat grapes, and his horse, just as obnoxious, shoved its snout in a flower bed and delightedly chewed. Seeing this picture made me furious. In a few jumps, I was downstairs and flew out into the yard. I grabbed some ripe tomatoes, the basket with which my mom left near the entrance, and started throwing them at this stranger, and shouted at an unexpected guest as loud as I could. "Hey, you shameless thief, get your horse and get out of here while you still can!" Even in a blaze of anger, I managed to see this guy's expressive and very handsome face and subtle aristocratic features. And the most striking were his eyes, one dark brown and the other bright green. Meanwhile, my well-aimed shots significantly spoiled the troublemaker's appearance. Tomato juice was coming down his thick hair, and a fashionable jacket, special for riding, was heavily stained. But he answered calmly and with dignity, though a little arrogantly. "Girl, are you ill? I am from the Vittorini family. I can do anything I want. I not only own this whole village, but thousands of acres of land in the area." And he was right. This family had long owned huge rice plantations and vineyards, and their wine was famous throughout Italy. But even realizing that an offspring of such a noble family was standing in front of me, I continued to be mad. "Fine, but you're still a little thief. My mom and I may not have thousands of acres, but this is our land, our house, our grapes, and our flower bed. So get lost." From the surprise on the guy's face, I realized that no one dared to talk to him like that before. Probably everyone in his presence was afraid to say something wrong and was sucking up to him. The ashamed, though noble thief silently got on his horse and rode away. Meanwhile, my thoughts were occupied with other things. In a few days, I had to go to a new school, where the children of the wealthiest families of the entire district study, and I have nothing to wear except for shabby and many times mended clothes. But on the X Days Eve, a miracle happened. I received a huge package with a bunch of new outfits and looks for every day. Oh, I spent so much time in front of the mirror in the evening, and I felt like the most beautiful girl in the world. Mom stood next to me, looking at me and smiling happily. There was a note in the package. "Dear Bertha, the first day at the new school will be difficult, but I believe you can do it. Never forget how extraordinary you are and believe in your dreams. P.S. I'm sorry we haven't seen each other in a while." It was Armando! I was so grateful to him for his generous gift, and on the X day I went to school in a brand new outfit and in a completely different mood. Not the decadent one I was in the week before. By the way, the first day went well, right up to the moment when I came to the school cafeteria and began to look for a place to sit. When I finally sat down with my lunch, I heard a hoarse and unpleasant voice, not like a child's voice at all. "Hey, you idiot, you don't belong here. This is where people sit, and you're a nobody," said a lanky, pimply-faced girl, looking at me with her small, angry eyes. She threw my tray off the table. At that moment, a beautiful hand touched my shoulder, and I heard, "She's with me, and there's a place for my friends always and everywhere." I turned around and saw two familiar eyes, one dark brown and the other bright green. It was that thief! We had lunch together, and after school, he walked me home. As it turned out, his name was Daniel, and he was very sorry about the circumstances under which our first meeting happened and how it ended. Bertha, I behaved not at all like a gentleman, but like a pompous donkey. I really want to fix everything and show you that I'm actually not like that. I'm just used to everyone crawling on their bellies in front of me, and you're so real. And you struck me with your sincerity. More often than not, people are interested in my money and not me. I can't stand shallowness like that, and I offer you my friendship. I'm sure it'll be different with you. Do you agree?" he added shyly. "Of course, my friend," I replied happily and patted him on the shoulder. I was very glad that I wouldn't be alone in the new school. I think friendship with Daniel is the best thing that happened in my life up to that moment. We have become inseparable, and since everyone at school groveled before my friend, they began to treat me with respect, fearing his wrath. It's hard to count how many awesome hours, minutes, seconds we spent together. Every day our friendship grew stronger, until I realized that on my part, it was no longer friendship. It was my first, and it seems, unanswered love. One day, Daniel and I agreed to meet for spaghetti at a local diner near my home. When I arrived, Daniel was already sitting at the table, and he was not alone. Next to him sat a spectacular curly beauty in a Gucci outfit. "Bertha, meet Rebecca. She's my father's best friend's daughter, and she came to visit us for a little while." The girl was nice and sweet and very politely tried to start a conversation with me, but I found it difficult to cope with my feelings. My heart was breaking just like when my brother left us. I felt a lump in my throat, and it was almost impossible to hold back the tears, and for them not to stream out of my eyes right here in front of everyone. I silently ran out into the street and didn't stop until I reached my house. When I got to my room, I fell on my bed and sobbed into my pillow. At that moment, I hated myself. After all, my rival had everything I didn't have to be worthy of Daniel. After some time of torment, I heard a knock on the door, which opened in a moment, and I felt someone sit on the edge of the bed and stroke my hair. When I lifted up from the pillow, my tear-stained face, and turned my head, I saw Daniel. Apparently, Mom had let him into the house. "What's wrong with you, Bertha?" he asked simply and, as always, calmly, looking at me closely with his different-colored and so beloved eyes. I didn't know what to answer. "Are you jealous?" he added insightfully. "What are you even talking about? You're way too smug." And you know what, actually? I was stammering and got stupidly defensive, giving the truth away completely. "But I love you too." He stunned me with his last phrase. At that moment, fireworks were exploding in my chest, and butterflies were fluttering in my stomach. And then he kissed me softly, and I'll remember his first kiss in my life even when I'm really old. I think it was one of the happiest days of my life that changed everything. Daniel and I became a couple and graduated high school together. And one time my boyfriend said that he really wanted to introduce me to his big family, and that was some news. On one hand, I was happy that Daniel had such serious long-term plans for me. On the other hand, I was scared. What if they don't like me? My fears turned out to be prophetic. At dinner, in a luxurious living room, where one sofa probably cost more than our entire house, I felt the obvious disapproval of my boyfriend's relatives, and he looked confused and frustrated. His frowning grandfather asked me uncomfortable questions about the wealth of my family and the gentility of my origin, to which I didn't know what to answer. The high point of that evening was when, afraid to move and do something wrong, I dropped my plate on myself and stained my dress. Daniel got too nervous and didn't even walk me home. His driver drove me. The next day, my boyfriend came to me very upset and said, "My family is against our future together, and since I don't have a euro of my own money, I can't take care of you. I made the decision to go to America and stand on my own 2 feet. And then I'll come back for you, I promise. I'll write to you every day." But the days passed, and for me they were painfully slow. And so a whole year went by after Daniel's departure. But I didn't receive a single letter from my perhaps already ex-boyfriend. At the same time, I was standing at the mailbox for hours waiting for the postman. But there were no letters. I lost a lot of weight, and I almost stopped talking at all. My mom began to seriously fear for my mental and physical health and called the doctor to our house. The doctor convinced her that I needed a change of environment. And when I woke up the next morning, I saw Armando sitting on a chair in front of my bed. "Hey, my dear sister, I came to take you to the city. I recently got a good position at work, and we bought a big house. There you'll have your own room, not worse, but even better than the previous one." I was so weak that I couldn't oppose it. Mom had packed my things, and my move took place on the same day. In the city, in a new environment, it really was easier for me. I spent a lot of time with my growing nephews and helped my brother's kind and good-hearted wife with the housework. She was tactful and didn't ask any questions, but at the same time, she cared and supported me. One day, Mom sent me a package with my sketchbooks full of stories I drew as a child, and they were wonderful. My brother also believed that my work was talented and that I definitely had to return for my work, at least for my little nephews who would be delighted. And I started drawing again. Creativity revived me like a phoenix. I rose from the ashes. I wanted to live and breathe again. Once I was invited by the editor of a large Italian publishing house. Turns out that my brother sent him my work, and he was in love with it. I was offered a contract, and my stories were printed in huge numbers. Very soon, my life changed beyond recognition. I became rich and famous. For one of the first checks I got, I bought a cozy house with a garden and took my mom there from the village. I can't say that I was absolutely happy at that time, but peace and tranquility finally reigned in my soul. Once I was signing autographs at a bookstore fan meeting, and suddenly I heard a still beloved and painfully familiar voice. "May I have your autograph?" I looked up and saw my dear eyes in front of me, one dark brown, the other bright green. At that moment, feelings flooded me. I didn't understand why Daniel came back to my life. when things just started to get better. I grabbed my cloak and quickly walked towards the exit. My ex-boyfriend caught up with me, took my hand and said, "Give me 5 minutes and I'll explain everything." We sat down on a bench in the park and he talked. He worked very hard in America creating his own company, which was now entered the international market. And every day he wrote me unanswered letters. But I wanted to object. "Listen, please. A few years later, my grandfather died. Since I built my business well, I had the opportunity to return home to help my father deal with the plantation's affairs. My dad is now in a difficult age crisis. He said that he's very sorry about one thing he did that affected my life. Together with my grandfather, they wanted to separate us and choose another bride for me. And they even decided to do one very, very dirty trick. They bribed the postman, who started taking my letters not to you, but to my grandfather. Here they are, all of them," Daniel said and handed me a weighty bundle. I was speechless, and with trembling hands, I took my treasure, which I'd been waiting for and unsuccessfully trying to find in the mailbox for so long. Finally, these letters reached their addressee. "I'll keep it short," Daniel continued. "I want to be with you. We've wasted a lot of time already. There's no need to beat around the bush. I'm sure we should be together. Otherwise, life would lose all meaning." After that, he hugged me tightly and never let me go again.